Artists have long been revered for their ability to record a person's likeness. A key component of this skill is the ability to mix a variety of skin tones. Early on, artists decoded the steps to mix a range of fleshy colors accurately, including how the skin color varies from person to person, with changing light and expression. As painting matured as a discipline, artists became more interested in capturing emotion and conveying more than the likeness of their muse. They sought to imbue their canvases with the soul or psychology of their subjects. This was done with light, pose, expression, and later with color, stroke, and even just the paint or the brush alone. Let's spend a few minutes looking at some master portraits, paintings across time, from the Louvre, the MoMA, the National Museum in Oslo, the Musée d'Orsay, and the Rijksmuseum. How do you see the artists here using color? What about their brushwork? Do their models look away from you? Or do they look you in the eye? Sometimes they might seem to look through you. How have the artists chose to do the same subject matter in different paintings? What changes and why? You can learn a lot by studying these masterworks. Stay tuned, and we'll take a look at the end of this video on how to achieve some of these effects. Those are some really great examples of what artists can do with paint and skin tone. As we move forward, one of the fun things to know is where your lessons are coming from. I studied at University of Minnesota Morris with John Stuart Ingle. He was a master Flemish still life painter, and he was commissioned by Betty Crocker to do a composite of 75 different women from around the world, and to turn those 75 women into one portrait to kind of symbolize Betty Crocker and its brand. And this method that we're going to use for skin tone comes from him. So we're going to start with capillaries in red, and then arteries with blue, and then melanin is going to be our yellow. And by mixing those colors together, you're going to find this really nice, deep, fleshy color that we can start to use right away. Now, depending upon your skin tone, sometimes you add a little bit more white or a little bit more pink. You can kind of mix that in and you can get different skin tones. You can add a little bit more lemon yellow and that'll get you a different skin tone. So we're going to use some of these skin tones on this Santa, and we're going to paint wet into wet, skin tone down first, and then we'll use some purples or greens to make some shadows, and then we'll use some warm colors like oranges or pinks to pull out the color in the cheeks. Matisse did a famous painting of his wife called The Green Stripe. It's a little bit more advanced if you want to work on more color. I recommend it. You can see his brush strokes and his layering. He did a lot of layering of wet over wet. To attempt a more colorful portrait, you're going to want to mix up a flesh tone or several flesh tones, and then you're going to need like a blue flesh tone, you're going to need a purple flesh tone, it might be nice to have a yellow one, it'd be good to have some green. Basically every color of the rainbow with skin tone as its base to kind of mute it out. Once you've got those mixed up, there's this really fun push and pull, and you can kind of layer and then use a contrasting color, and you can start to build with these different colors and then layer over the top. Some really neat things when you layer wet into wet. As the paint dries and then you add a fresh coat, it kind of lifts up. The more you manipulate the paint, the more it blends with the color beneath. So recommend trying the Matisse if you want to do a little bit more color, although you can bring these techniques to any of your handouts. As you watch this one finish, keep in mind that warm colors like oranges and reds sort of pull the face forward. Cooler colors like purples and greens and blues push the skin backwards. And so you can use that to sort of define and manipulate the way we perceive the space in a portrait. At the very end, we have some examples of student work from this assignment.